Hey guys, it is Justin and Taryn here in Bristol and Steve and Galen in Morristown. By now you know the deal. I don't think I need to tell exactly what we're here to do other than explain, excuse me, here we go. Explain maybe where we're going with this little podcast. We wanted to catch you up on some events coming up, also some events that we have just returned home from. Explain what's on the horizon for us as a gym with some new workshops and some new in-house competition ideas that we're kicking around, and just keep you in the loop. So let's just dive right into it. How's everybody doing?
Good.
I don't know what'll do it here.
We're doing good. G's chest bumped him up there.
Yeah, Steve, how we doing, boys?
Doing well, man. Trying to fight off sinuses right now, but so if you hear me sounding more like Darth Vader, that's what happened. But yeah, doing good other than that, though.
Yeah, all's good. Sore from yesterday's thrusters and burpees. Mostly sore to my ego because it hurt. Doesn't matter how long we've done this, right, Justin? 16 years later, it's just as painful.
It hurt so bad yesterday. Like, I was like, I don't think my legs are going to allow me to jump over this. Like, I don't think they're going to. It was terrible.
3 rounds were plenty, I saw, for most folks, right?
Yeah, I love that workout.
Yeah, it was a good workout. I only needed 32. It was the minimum effective dose.
I saw that in your comment. Talk about baby deer legs running out the door, not knowing where they were, nor if your lungs were going to keep up with what your heart needed. That was impressive. But
hey, when the thrusters are the easiest part, I was just saying, when the thrusters are the easiest part, that's a gnarly workout.
Yes. Completely agree, Steve. Thrusters by far the easiest part. You hit the burpees, and then I didn't run a road, but still same thing. It's like, can't breathe. I'm dying. I feel like I'd never done a burpee in my life.
Feel real heavy trying to open your hips and get over the bar. I felt that way.
Yeah.
yeah, no doubt. Well, we're glad I can continue to provide discomfort. If we've done anything over the past 8 weeks or going on 8 weeks, we've hopefully sharpened the mental sword a bit. Hopefully the endurance is there as well. I think people are going to have good success with Murph this year, but I'm a little biased. They're definitely they know where to go and when the pain hits, I'll say there's been plenty of that. So hopefully that's worth a little bit of something. So speaking of which, it's right around the corner. This one's being recorded on Tuesday, the week before the big Monday coming up. So hopefully you guys as viewers are excited, nervous, ready to get into the dark space, as the old CrossFitters used to call it. What did the
Pain cave?
Pain cave. Yeah, go into the dark place. I remember specifically Camille LeBlanc and her like French sounding Canadian French accent saying the dark place all the time.
Like the
Yeah, they're going to the dark place. So be ready for that. You're going there. I think we're going to have good success. You guys think you'll have the big turnout as always there? How you arranging it this year in Morristown, class-wise?
We're doing an open gym. We've done it the last couple of years, though. I'd say we have a pretty good turnout. We always have a group of guys who don't even come here, don't even go to this gym, and they'll show up, like 10 of them. And like one dude will have a speaker box, the other dude will have his phone out, just recording.
They bring their own music?
What?
They bring their own music?
Yeah, dude. You know you got to be prepared.
Anything to round out that classic rock stuff you play is probably better.
Oh,
shut your mouth, or I'll kick your teeth down your throat and I'll shut it for you.
But I remember this dude's like holding it like a speaker box, like LL Cool J. So it's not convenient.
Even
He
better.
ran in jeans and not tennis shoes last year. And he was just kind of like the sound man and the camera guy at the same time. Impressive skill set.
That blows my mind.
I'm looking forward to that mostly.
Yeah, so we have our open gym format. We can't accommodate 90 people in 2 classes, and you guys, I'm sure, just figure it out. But it works better when people come in and just filter their way through. We have 2 hours of window of opportunity, and then enjoy the day, the work, and really the purpose of the day, the Memorial Day afterwards. So that's the way our day's structured. I'm sure you guys maybe have a little different twist on it there.
We did an 8, 9:30 class, an hour and a half classes. Try to get it through, get some good pictures, stuff like we always do each year. I try to time it to where everybody can come at once, and in between we can get everybody on the street and get a nice little group picture so we can post. And then, yeah, it goes well. A lot of people. Good.
Yeah.
Guys, those 10 guys that come, I want to ask you how their air squats.
I don't think they're terrible. I remember they're not terrible.
Depends on which rep you're looking at and what portion of the rep you're looking at.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah, not I wouldn't say terrible, but some. And this is not just a reflection on these guys too. This is kind of holistically. Sometimes we see things that aren't what they perceive to be, what their and their performer believes them to be. Let's leave it at that, right?
Yes,
Could
sir.
be better.
Yeah. Well, cool. Yeah. So 8 and 9:30 here. Expect it to be chaotic, Bristol folks. It always is. The question always comes up, which class is going to be the least busy? We have no answer for that. It moves around every year. I can promise you that 8 o'clock will be cooler in temperature.
Looks like it's going to be pretty cool as it is. Looks like high 75 and then 70% chance thunderstorms.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
So prepare to get wet or bike a ton with a partner.
yeah. So be punctual also. Try to get in here a little early, start warming yourself up. We'll have a warm up. Obviously, a lot of warming up happens in the first mile. But be ready for chaos. Show up ready to listen to a brief and ready to work. I unfortunately will not be here. So in all the preparation that I put you guys through in Morristown and here in Bristol, I apologize. I will not be here to see your success. It wasn't my choice. I have a friend getting married and chose that weekend. So here we are.
So you better do it in Italy.
I'll be with you in spirit. I think we're going to try. Lauren is kicking the idea around of trying it Thursday. She and I might partner.
Okay.
I'm still nursing this bum shoulder. I got to figure out some stuff to do, but we'll do a version of it before we take off. I think logistically it might be a bit tricky to do in Italy. So,
But in Italy, you can call it meatball Murph.
yeah. Shoveling meatballs into my face. Does that count?
Pass the meatball.
Or marinara Murph or any other Italian M word. Sense of Murph. Marvelous.
Cool. Well, yeah, that's an exciting day. So we're right around the corner. Also, I guess we can kind of pivot around too, because it's the time of year we're starting to see people work their way back into the house, and we'll see them on Murph Day as well. All the students, we are welcoming you with open arms. So if you guys know anyone, or if you have the consistent folks that come home from college or into high school, or a middle schooler that listens well and takes good coaching, then let them know. It's the time of year they get that discounted rate. 10 weeks of training, $225. They save some good money there, and obviously learn a lot of lessons and stuff while here. So you guys are starting to see some of that trickle in, right?
Yeah, we had one this morning. I know you had one earlier in the week, maybe.
Yeah.
I think we've got 5 to 6 already. So I imagine high school ended. Well, I guess Hamlin County schools ended middle of last week. Lakeway ends this week. I don't know about your county schools or city schools, but I imagine they're right there on the cusp of finishing up. Colleges, of course, are making their way back. Welcome home is what we always say.
Yeah, we've seen the college kids come back. Our high schools are, yeah, you're right on the edge. I don't know if any of them have released yet, but they're right there in a week or so.
I think Alicia said that her daughter's last day is today. So
Okay.
I'll be that.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah. So come home, kiddos.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity. I think we hit on it a little bit in the last podcast too, but plenty of stuff to be learned, not only mental toughness, but how to move your body, how to train well-rounded. That translates into your sport, so on and so forth. So cool. Also, if you're marking your calendars, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You can go ahead.
I was saying if you're marking your calendars, I guess the next thing we have on our list is our second workshop. So if you were able to attend our first one, we spent a good bit of time focusing on gymnastics, and we hope you enjoyed that. We have one coming up that's going to focus on Olympic weightlifting for good reason.
What did you call it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Speaking of, we'll call it weightlifting. You become a Olympic weightlifter when you weightlift in the Olympics, and there's none of us here that have done that, nor will do that.
Let's come back to that, but bookmark that idea. We'll come back to it.
Okay. Yeah. So a weightlifting workshop. And Jay, when's that happening?
That will be June 29th.
June 29th. That's a Saturday. So if you're interested in learning more kind of details or refining your skills to a lot sharper point, then please show up. We'll have the chance to expand on the ideas that we cover in class some, but obviously a bigger chunk of time gives us a lot more room to dig in.
Looking about 2 hours, I'd say, of learning. And why are we going to do that, Gene?
Well, twofold. Reason one, why not? It's just another tool in your, like Taryn mentioned, to sharpen a tool that is in your toolkit that you might not use as frequently as you like. We certainly haven't used them as much here lately for good reason. So just to learn the lifts and the exercise and terminology and the positions and all the correlating terms will make less muddy water, more clear understanding. But maybe 3 reasons. The week that follows the 28th is Hero's Journey week. This is our 4th iteration of the Hero's Journey, which is always ripe with workouts involving barbell movements. And we might or might not have already looked at the workouts, and you have clean and jerks and snatches for sure. So why not just prepare yourself for what lies within the next 7 calendar days? But then more importantly, we are, for our 14th year anniversary celebration in Morristown, moving away for the time being from the classic beat you up conditioning type workout, and we will host an informal weightlifting event. So nothing to register for in the form of USAW. You just show up and we'll have a mock weightlifting meet. 3 snatches, 3 clean and jerks. So if you followed along with Robbie and Katya and I and Becca and Amethyst or Justin or Steve or JoJo or any of us over the years, then you can literally just take a step into the water and see how it feels without the stress of formal structure. It'll be formal structure, but it won't be really stuffy, I should say.
Yeah, it won't be sanctioned.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not sanctioned, but a good opportunity to see if you like it. And then if you do like it, we might prepare slightly for a fall event, if for those of you who have interest in weightlifting, masters or otherwise, in the months ahead. So I guess that's 1, 2, and 3 reasons, and 3 white lights, I hope.
Oh, I see what you did there. Oh, that was slick. Nice.
Okay. Yeah, we've had a lot of interest, and if you're on the fence about it, just do it. Just get out of your comfort zone and do it. You don't have to wear a singlet to this one unless you want to. Galen will actually be judging in a singlet. So, yeah, just get out of the box. And if you want to compete in a national competition, this is one of the easiest ones as far as qualifying. Coming from a CrossFit sport to hitting something that's obtainable within 6 months, I would say, after this, something like you have probably 6 months to do so to qualify for a national level event. So we highly encourage everyone to do that. And that would be masters 35 and plus. Everyone else below that, come do it as well.
Or open or juniors or universities, whatever. There's a division for all ages, honestly.
Yeah, be fun time. Be fun time. I'll throw in some pictures of the old meet that we had in Morristown of us lifting back into, God, when was that? 2014,
I think we had two or three, I want to say.
We had one outside.
One outside.
Yeah.
Say that one, Steve.
One inside, one outside.
Okay. I'll see if I can find both those pictures and put it up so the highlights.
And you're already on our channel, so that means you know how to navigate it, or this link took you to our channel. You can really scroll back through the archives and see a lot of cool weightlifting videos of these fellas way before my time. Steve would have looked like a young buck. These boys would have been moving around some crazy heavy weight. So if you want to go digging through those weeds, then you can find some cool footage of that stuff. It's going to be a little more grainy film look, I'm sure. Times have changed a bit with what cameras can do, but yeah.
What were you going to say, G?
I don't remember. We had an informal kind of East Tennessee League where K-Town hosted, CrossFit Knoxville hosted, we hosted, and these were fully sanctioned events. So folks qualify within the gym for national level events, right?
Yeah, we did. And I don't mean to brag, but we won every one of them. So
not so humble brag. How does sanctioning work while we're on that? I'm just
Here's 2 big names. Did Taryn beat West Kits? I'm trying to remember that. Did he win that one at K-Town?
Who did you?
I don't say.
They were probably different weight classes. I'm guessing they weren't in the same.
I think
Trevor. I said Taryn.
You said Taryn. I was like, my gears were turning. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't
Trevor.
I don't know if did he lift in that one, G? I can't remember.
He lifted at K-Town. I remember he lifted at K-Town.
I'll have to look. There is a podium picture of the teams. I'll see if I can find that and see. We may have only won 2. I think we won all 3. I could be wrong.
Probably. I just don't remember overall. I just remember Wes Kitts being there when he's national champion and true Olympic weightlifter currently. But
freak.
Dude, his first meet ever, he full cleaned 170 kilos and the front squat was so easy, it popped up to here. I was like, he's just going to thruster it. He's just going to go on. Could have.
Yeah, this guy snatched over 400 pounds, I think, right? I think he snatched like 180 something.
Yeah, he's hit 400 for sure.
Stupid.
That's insane.
And he loves meatballs. That's what Jeremy Baker told me one time. He said
It's a secret. It's a recipe.
that's what Terrence's going to do in Italy.
Yeah, we're going to test out that theory here in a few days. We're going to town. That'd be
I
fun.
want you and Lou I want you guys to only share a plate of spaghetti.
Yeah.
Meat in the middle. Ramp.
We now return to Lady and the Tramp and Michael Vick.
Yeah. Well, maybe see if we can put that together.
We call that an Italian kiss, not a French kiss.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, by the way, talking about the comp at the end of July, I told some of my other classes, I mentioned that we were going to do a competition. And I said, so instead of doing a couple hundred burpees, we just do 6 lifts. We call it a day. So if that don't sell it, I don't know what will.
Yeah, and if you're not competing, guys, come work out, do whatever you want, or watch people work out or whatever, and come fellowship, drink a beer on the side. By beer, I mean our brand new elements that we have.
Hey,
Look at it right here. Look at it right here.
Electrolyte beer.
there he is.
There we go. It's like, so we do have the new carbonated elements in, guys, and they are spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. It's not working. Why is it never working? We want it to.
So if you guys have been around us in the gym as of late, you know that we also just returned from Columbia, or just outside of Columbia, South Carolina. Justin and Steve had the opportunity last year to go to an event at the Sornex manufacturing facility was Lexington, right? Lexington, South Carolina. And every year for now 17 years, they've hosted speakers and brought together the lifting community, fitness, wellness as a whole, I guess you can say. And they've kind of kicked ideas around. They've had presenters. How many do we have in total this year? You guys remember the total number?
10 or 12. 10 or 12.
Yeah, so
We had 5 the second day. I think on the first day we had
3, 4.
I think we were probably like 8 on the first day. I guess.
Okay.
So quite a
6
few
days.
people in the space. They had anything from high level strength conditioning coaches, places like Florida State, to arguably one of the best powerlifters to ever do it, to he was a ortho trauma surgeon, big time meat eater in the carnivore diet space. So anyway, want to just kind of kick some ideas around and expand on what we thought and things we liked and just the overall experience. So whoever wants to share their first thoughts, that'd be cool.
Yeah, first one I think he was kind of last minute add was John Wellborn. So if you've been around CrossFit as long as Galen and I, a bunch of old heads, like we actually did some CrossFit. He started CrossFit football with them. He's also played in the NFL for 10 years as a starter. Freak. He's like 6'4", still 275 pounds with probably abs. Big guy. He was really good, I think, as far as talking about. He was a rhetoric major, which kind of cracked me up. And I was like, never expect that from him. Wanted to go to law school, but ended up in the NFL for 10 years. He was really good. That kind of started us off that day. Did y'all like him?
Yeah, I love the way you said that. He just ended up in the NFL. He's trying to be a lawyer. He's like, dang, I'll just go to the NFL, I guess. But,
Yeah, he said, he's like, I figured I'd go to the NFL for a few years and make some money so I could go to law school. And he's like, I ended up staying for 10 years, which blows my mind.
Yeah, that was interesting.
He was a seed for me, Jay. And obviously you got me into trying CrossFit. But the first program officially that I followed that was not something written by Ronnie Coleman or Jay Gellner or Arnold was CrossFit football, and humbled me. Boy, was I not strong enough to try to follow that. So it was cool to meet him in person. I like that he led with Greek words, pathos, ethos, logos. That obviously wins part of my heart when anybody starts quoting Marcus Aurelius and talking about the Stoics, and then he even moved on to Dostoevsky. So a lot of his literature references won my heart. But it was a good way to start. Big human being, impressive presence. He talked about Jordan Peterson, which I think probably endeared everybody to him a little bit as well, and used some choice words about the way he spoke, which was interesting. It's good.
He gave hope to those who enjoy the alternative footwear, that community. So people like Croc wearers and Tiva wearers. This grown man, chiseled chin, could definitely win a fight amongst all four of us, I would assume.
Jiu-jitsu player.
Yeah, wore broken down flip-flops where his toes were curled off the end of one of them. Definitely from Old Navy. Yeah. We're not talking about like nice supportive high-end technology either. So
His foot in that flip-flop looked like me wearing a small T-shirt, just stuff falling out everywhere. It was so small.
led off his talk with just genuine authenticity and talking about that, which was referenced by how many of the other speakers? I mean, I think everyone circled back to him, which was really cool too. So yeah, he set the tone. He was a presence in the room. It was cool. He didn't dig into any or not much fitness advice or anything of that sort. He was far more into, as Galen said, the deeper dive about all of it, I guess you can say. Finding you as a person and why you do it and what you do it and how you do it. And it was cool.
He had a quote that said, forever a white belt, because he got into training jiu-jitsu. He went to basically a self-defense class, which had sim rounds for pistols and also fake knives, was saying he got destroyed by, he said, what was a 40-year-old dad just beat him to death on the ground. And he said, forever a white belt, always stay learning, always try to learn something from people. Which was really, really cool.
Also used by multiple speakers throughout the event. It was cool to see that they were all in the crowd, kind of, picking the brains of each other. They were, back and forth referencing things that other people had said throughout the conference. So very, very cool.
Best of the best was there. Oh, one of his workouts, I was going to tell you, I think it was on my old YouTube channel, so my personal YouTube. I think it was 5 rounds, body weight and body weight and a quarter back squats, max reps, followed by 15 burpee box jumps. That was the workout. So you do as many back squats as you can, a body and a quarter, and then immediately into 15 burpee box jumps, and then you do it again for 5 rounds. I remember recording it, and I was just like, I can't move. I almost started crying. I was like, I don't know what's happening. My body's shutting down.
There's no jumping at that point.
No.
Yeah.
You remember wasn't Cal Sue his workout too?
Yeah. Yeah. If you've ever heard they say that's probably the hardest CrossFit workout ever. 100 thrusters at 135 for the guys, 95 for the girls. At 0 and every minute, you got to do 4 burpees. I think maybe 5. Do you remember, G?
I think it was 5, honestly, but I don't remember.
But so you start with burpee and then just die. Like I think we're the original, some Cal State, he's a football player, I think, back in the day that died. So hard workout.
Well, and if you were in the presence of this man, it would make good sense about why he would do something like that. He definitely was challenged and was looking for physical contact and pain, and makes good sense.
And he runs Power Athlete HQ, so if you check that out.
Yeah, so he kicked it off, and that was really, really cool. Next, they brought in a kind of a unique approach, which probably took a lot of the room back a bit. Obviously, if you can, we'll kind of maybe paint this picture. You step into this facility. They have kind of the showroom type area where they have a lot of their equipment splayed out. Sornex is an equipment manufacturer, so they make equivalent to like what Rogue does, except they were here first, I would have to assume.
Yeah,
a good bit first, and probably maybe towards a little more of your traditional weightlifting and powerlifting themes versus Rogue's probably leaned a bit more into, am I saying this correctly? Probably lean more into the CrossFit ideas or functional fitness ideas more so. But anyways, they have tons of weight spread out. Obviously, it attracts a group of really big, well-developed, extremely strong, monstrous in size. Let's see if I can keep this going. Terrifying in nature, eat a million. Anyways, huge guys. And the next guy comes up and he starts talking about how to properly prepare athletes to peak for their sport by the use of very low percentage loading and pretty much doing the same workout every day, just to provide just enough stimulus to find out how many sessions those people needed to peak. So versus a power lifter who's going to come in and lift heavy daily, probably, or multiple times a week, he's speaking to the crowd and trying to teach them how to do it in reverse order or backwards, I would say. Expand on that. That was Nick Garcia. Yeah, Nick Garcia. He's the head, I guess, do you think strength conditioning coordinator or just for the throwers? He's at a high school out of California, Notre Dame High School in California.
It wasn't clear to me which one, but it sounds like he should have been for the whole school if he's not.
Yeah. So he comes in, and you guys want to help me expand on this. He lays out X amount of work or movements. They use the same weight pretty much throughout. Those percentages are very low in the grand scheme of what these athletes could actually lift. He figures out by using testing of performance of their lifts or of their activities, how many sessions these athletes needed to find their peak performance. And that's when he would try to reverse engineer it and get them in their peak on regional throwing day, for example, for a shot putter. So it was very interesting. It's very, very individualized for the person. Do you remember whose program he was following? I couldn't remember it off the top of my head.
I have it. Yeah.
There's a K.
Bondarchuk's.
Yeah. By the way, just to take it back a little bit, just so people will be aware, this was not like a CrossFit event. These guys specify in team sports. So in other words, you're talking about peaking. He's talking about peaking in like track and field for throwing events, things like that, or whether it be sports specific in football, it could even be like baseball, anything more explosive, because John Wellborn had the football background, 10 plus years, and that's what they're more focused on. So it wasn't so much CrossFit, even though a lot of those things could be applied, but just so the audience knows, that's more of what they were talking about. Peaking for what? Peaking for game day, or again, more of a regional competition or trying to make state if you're in high school. So that's more of what these talks were about. And so that's why you have a lot of these guys are head strength and conditioning coaches. So we had Georgia last year, head strength and conditioning coach, and they all kind of go through basically what they're showing the athletes, different cards that they're reading off of like how many sets, how many reps, but it's all periodization. But I just wanted to give context more to what we're actually talking about overall.
And they do have some GPP stuff. They've had the Wolf Brigade guy last year that when Steve and I went to. They have very few, but it's like Steve said, it's more sport specific or strength specific sports or talks and food. And they also had a girl that we'll talk about in the future is completely different. What are you going to say, G?
The guy, this kind of like to nutshell the next guy, he was the data guy. They called him the data-driven guy. So he had all these performance indicators plotted out on this line graph. So he could, over time, establish, like what Steve says, there are athletes in his stable that peak after 18 sessions. There are athletes that peak in 25 to 27 sessions. And it's basically like being this maestro that orchestrates when particular folks are peaking and then back engineering their programming so that they could peak for the right event. And if it's not the right event, then they just kind of accept that they won't maybe throw as far as they would otherwise, but then they can plan to throw the furthest at the most important meet. It was really interesting. It was a super scientific approach to strength and conditioning through the lens of, I think, particularly throwing. That's what I gathered. Hammer, shot, discus, javelin.
Yeah,
fits.
It kind of. I say it kind of reminds me almost of like a old school classic CrossFit. If you're going about 70 to 80% weight, you're moving fast all the time, but you're not destroying yourself. That's what it kind of reminded me of. Like, it's just like, all right, we're going to move some today. We don't want you crushed, but we're going to keep moving quick the whole time.
Yeah. So he was cool. I enjoyed his speaking. He's a sharp fella.
And bow-legged as God knows what. Like, he was like what they said, one of the shortest national level shot putters in history or something like that. He's probably 5'7" or 8. Where last year they had Ryan Krauser, which is a Olympic gold medalist, and he's like 6'6", so completely different. It's really interesting. Who's after that?
And who we have? Landmine University guy?
Yeah, Landmine University.
Alex Kanellis. So we have them in both gyms, I believe. It's really challenging for us to utilize pieces of equipment like this in our space, but if you've heard of a landmine before, it basically anchors a barbell into a set space. You hold the other end of the barbell. You work on explosive movements, whether it be pressing, you can pull with them. Is that a pretty good explanation of it? You can obviously load up. Anyways, this guy developed a program centered around that. He explained kind of how he could mimic to his best degree Olympic lifting with those as well. But essentially a lot of explosive, what we call triple extension, or the use of the hip opening, as well as pressing type movements, all centered around the landmine. And again, probably a bit of a stretch for the crowd that probably don't utilize landmines, or at least not in that way. So cool to see him kind of show up and give a good presentation and open the eyes to that type of training too.
Which makes kind of sense, especially if you're coming from sports specific. He was a wrestler, and the landmine's mostly rotational strength and I'll say hip explosion as well. So that super fast twitch where you have to be explosive. Now I could even think of like any type of throwing sport, it's going to, I would think, improve your trunk control and speed just to kind of translate, especially if you're throwing a ball or twisting a baseball bat. So, and he had hundreds and hundreds of top state level national champions stuff that he put up there. Like how many people come through the program? He's somewhere in Missouri. I can't remember.
Iowa.
Okay. Yeah.
So wrestling, the mecca of wrestling, right? Iowa at one point was the mecca of wrestling. So it makes good sense. And to build on what you said, Jay, he had probably the toughest row to hoe, talking about rotational strength in a group full of, the strongest people any of us have been around, most likely. So I thought he did well, and he led with humility, which is to say, I'm a strength coach. I don't think this is the only exercise and implement you should use. I just think it's useful, and here's why. So he didn't lead with, this is the way, even though all you guys use a barbell exclusively in a vertical plane. Let's work on a forward trajectory with rotation and symmetry and all the stuff that, like you said, Jay, like judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, that kind of stuff, throwers could benefit from, essentially.
Yeah, to me, it just looked like it was more of a safe, maybe efficacious if you're younger, way of lifting without getting injured, and to go through all the spinal rotations. Because if you watch, especially like boxers, people, or baseball players who have to really torque into a movement, it makes a lot of sense. Plus, we talked about Sorinex and a little bit of their background, but the guy that owns Sorinex was also a hammer thrower and was almost like he was in Olympic trials. So a lot of these things converge, and they're a little different than what we do, but they all kind of come together in some fashion.
Yeah, and I think Sorinex as a company invented that, correct? That's what they claimed, that had kind of developed the first landmine anchor. Yeah. So it was kind of cool to see that come home. He was obviously was he, what do we call him, the son? Probably like the
Bert.
Yeah. President now?
He's like the CEO. Yes,
CEO
his dad
now.
stepped down a while back, and he's the CEO now. His dad is a really good weightlifter back in the day as well, and then Bert was he's strong. I bet Bert right now could deadlift over 600 pounds.
His dad's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they was that 15 year before we went. They inducted him into the Strength Conditioning Hall of Fame. It's really great shirts. If you want to get some really cool shirts, go to their website. Really cool. Or equipment, but you're going to pay for it, but it'll last probably 200 years.
Cool. If we're continuing to work down the list, then go ahead, G.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was thinking what came after that. Was it lunch?
Yeah, there was a little bit of a break. They kind of tightened up the break a bit, and then we got into, now it might have been switched into her having the hardest road to hoe, or at least to try to captivate an audience that wasn't prepared to listen to probably what she necessarily had to say. But Kai Furneaux, is that how you say it? I believe, was an Australian. She grew up in a small community, I guess, in Australia. I don't remember the town's name, in the outback. Always was adventuring and exploring. Eventually became, and I'll just kind of give you the 30,000 foot view, eventually became was it 6 or 7 Naked and Afraids?
I think she won 6.
Yeah, so 6 of those, and then also became a stunt double for some high-end movies, a lot of the superhero movies, kind of against the odds of, her claiming people telling her that it wasn't possible, especially at the time she started it. So survival expert, knows how to obviously survive alone and with others in the wild. And she basically just worked through a presentation kind of about mindset and how to be, it was the positivity type approach to things and glass half full and, one step in front of the other type thing, but with really cool stories to go with it because of how tough she had challenged herself with some of the things she had done. So pretty neat.
She's in her 40s doing stunt work, which is pretty unheard of. It's usually younger people, but she's in her 40s playing these 20-year-old girls doing stuff, which really shows her fitness level as well.
And how tough and resilient she is. You could tell she was that type of person, but very easy to listen to and be around. Probably wouldn't think of her right off the bat as someone that it was as tough as she was upon first meeting her until she gets into her presentation. So pretty cool. Do you guys have any thoughts on the other things she said?
I think you covered it.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, that's all she was in a nutshell. Some of those things, some of those talks are applicable as far as what you can grab from it. Hers was just more of having, and not knocking it, but a fantastic mindset. Someone who can go through 6 naked and afraids. She mentioned one of those. She went 20 days and just ate 1 fish. So that speaks a lot to me, whether I take anything from it or not.
In the Amazon, right?
Yeah, in the Amazon. So
In rainy season.
Season. Yeah.
Was that
If
the one
that's,
that had shelter on dry land and it rained and went above it, or is that the Everglades?
That was, yeah,
Okay.
that was the buy.
Which was
Either way.
Which is the one? Was it the very last one? She had to make a raft and pedal 3 miles upstream, and it took her, I think, over 3 hours of straight pedaling the last day to get to the getaway boat or whatever it was.
And as she eased the raft into the water, which was partly submerged, the caiman just dropped right into the water. You remember that story? The caiman is an alligator down there.
That's crazy.
It blows my mind. Blows my mind.
Crocodile or alligator? Is it its own thing? Karen.
It's its own thing.
I don't know. I thought it was a person. Cayman Islands.
I could be wrong though, Galen. I'm not sure if that's a type of one of those two.
She said there was also piranha there, and it was kind of worried because she was bleeding in some spots where she was making the raft. So crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
And then to finish that day out, it was Josh Storms.
Great speak.
Josh Storms.
So
A lot of energy.
head strength and conditioning coach for Florida State.
And man,
So somebody who has the
chops.
title, the reputation.
Yeah, and
But-
high energy, very high energy. I think was less, or at least his presentation to me presented that he was less the finest of intricate details guy and more of the, we just got to show up and bust our butt. Obviously there's method to his madness, I'm sure, but it was very much generated around just challenging yourself and working hard and carrying a bunch of energy and stuff.
He's the David Goggins of the strength coaches.
Yeah.
Because their motto is just work. It's like, do the work. Do the
Right.
work.
And
About developing culture. The culture he wanted to, when he came to Florida State, was to mimic his history of, he only saw success through work. So that's the redemptive theme for everything that he wants his guys to humble themselves before their team. Like, I really liked his rule that when you are in, I guess, Florida State facilities, before you walk through the door, headphones out, hoods down, no hats, no earrings. Like, there's something that's more important than you. I love that idea, and that they all bought into it. Hat off to him, literally, for that. I love it. Fantastic. You're not the most important person. That's what those behaviors sometimes exhibit.
Yeah, and
young people.
they had, obviously Florida State has an incredible media team, but they had some clips sprinkled in throughout his presentation of kind of their hype videos of them in the weight room and then having success on the field. And they do something cool. I didn't know it at the time, but now I do. They form up concrete before every game into a square, and it had the logo of the team they were playing on. Assuming if they won, they would set it down in the locker room and probably given a game ball to someone, they would have an influential player of that game have a sledgehammer. They set it on the ground and the team would gather around him. He would rear back and crush that. So in the video, they had these back to back kind of going with the beat. And I mean, it was get you fired up.
Yeah.
Sure.
I wanted to work out after that.
Yeah. And Sornex obviously has one world-class little presentation facility with the best sound. And so, I mean, it was really, really cool. So his energy and then those videos and then what he was teaching from a mindset and building his brand and stuff, it was a good one too.
Yeah. He was one of my favorite speakers. It was good. Talked about his wife having breast cancer and he found out like 15 minutes before a game and stuff like that. She's doing well now though. It was really, really motivational, heartwarming, and just seemed like a good dude. He was there last year, Stephen, when we were there, but he wasn't talking. They just come there to learn every year. So we're sitting amongst us from Morristown and Bristol, some of the best strength and conditioning people in the world who still, as far as their accolades go, they still want to be better and want to come listen to other people talk, which explains where they're at, which is really great. And they also have free dinners and breakfast and lunch, which helps out a lot, especially when you feed that many big guys.
Yeah, that ended day one. And then we got to, line up and eat a good pile of food and enjoy each other's company. And then 2 of these 4 showed off their strength and explosive nature. And we're able to ring the bell. Only 2 though. So they had like a really, really cool thing. Continues to bring the community together and let people interact and hang out and talk and stuff. They had some like test of strength events, like holding a kettlebell up vertically, a heavy kettlebell, and like slamming a sledgehammer into one of those that send the ball up and hit the bell, like a carnival type of event. But they had it set up pretty hard. And of course, we ended up twisting these guys' arms and getting them to do it. So that was cool to see, and just watching, all good energy and stuff come around. But that was It's fun after.
Yeah, it was good. And Steve lifted up they had the big thing.
Oh,
Steve
yeah.
did a Zercher hold. And then at the end, they had a beer stein hold. They've had to hold 4 beers. And whoever lasted the longest, I'm pretty sure got a Vonco barbell, which is really, really cool. So multiple $100 barbell.
Yeah, and that took it to day one. And we're kind of tight on time, so we can kind of go through these last ones if you want, or just kind of speak a little bit on it. Bo Sandoval kicked off day 2.
Spectacular. Follow him on Instagram.
He was the best speaker, in my opinion, as far as purely speaking.
Yeah. Dude, coming from nothing to being the top trainer at the UFC headquarters and in multiple other schools, like great guy. Built his own office. Like that's the thing that blew my mind. He's a strength and conditioning coach. He didn't have an office to put his stuff. So he bought a bunch of brick and cinder blocks and made his own office built onto the building. So and then he put his office in there, which shows work ethic. It's amazing.
Didn't he become the head strength conditioning coach at the first school he was at the age of like 26?
24, I think.
Can you imagine that? 24. So he was.
He's also the guy who taught us that Olympic weightlifter is a term you use only after having participated in the Olympics. Otherwise, just a weightlifter. So we are all weightlifters. I shared that story with the class yesterday. As I looked around the room, there were some other weightlifters in there. I was like, we're just weightlifters. We're not Olympic weightlifters. Let's make sure we understand.
I like that.
And I'll give that to you. I've heard Justin say that multiple times. You haven't said it's not Olympic weightlifting, but you say people call it Olympic weightlifting because it is performed in the Olympics.
CrossFit tries to dumb it down for people. So
yeah.
Like squat clean.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. And then another one that was cool, probably fit the mindset of some of the folks in the room, but not speaking necessarily on lifting or training athletes. And that was Dr. Sean Baker. So he was a trauma orthopedic surgeon, opened up real quick with being extremely nervous to speak in front of the crowd, but then brought it into perspective of what real nerves were like when he was deployed. Was he in Iraq or Afghanistan, one of the two?
I think correct.
In the trauma room after an IED went off outside of base, they're rushing all these people in. They're working on folks and having to triage who gets care first, only to then find out in the middle of an operation or working through the triage that they thought they had intel that a bomber was also in the hospital. And they look around at each other and decide to continue carrying on versus evacuating. So I thought that was a really fascinating way to open it up. But he spoke on, if you haven't heard him, he's been on Joe Rogan twice now, the use of the carnivore diet. He's a big believer in the consumption of meat, and it works for him.
Yeah, carnivore diet and the aging athlete was what his talk was on. It was really good.
So Sean Baker, as Justin said, presentation was the carnivore diet and the aging athlete. So he kind of set some pretty cool goals or milestones for himself to achieve, and was on his own personal journey utilizing the carnivore diet to continue to pursue some of these lofty goals, which I thought was really cool, and had some cool studies and some cool information that he shared as well. If y'all want to get into any of that.
I'm glad those goals he had pre 60 years old. So he's 57, just to name a few. You guys can add to them: a sub 6-minute mile before 60, 600-pound deadlift before 60, a sub 1 minute 400 before 60, sprint 100 meters in 13 seconds before 60. What were the others? Is that it?
Did you say 6-minute mile?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he might have got him.
Dunk a basketball.
Yeah. He's a bigger guy. He's probably 6'4"-ish. What do you think?
Big guy.
6'4", probably 260, like fit guy.
Well filled out for his frame. No
He
doubt.
did do what, 405 deadlifts for 20 unbroken one time. So pretty
And
impressive.
world record holder on the row erg.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So impressive athlete, no doubt.
free guy.
But my big takeaway from him, which I was just discussing with you guys, was I don't remember which study it was. Maybe we can look it up. That the blood lipid saturation or the blood glucose saturation of particular individuals as a snapshot is not necessarily indicative of health trouble down the road, depending on if those individuals are fat adapted, meaning they use ketones as their main energy source. They will likely have more fat in their blood. And then the opposite being true also, if they're more glycogen adapted, then they're going to have more sugar in their blood so that they're able to uptake and utilize it as an energy substrate more easily. I thought that was interesting, as opposed to just being dogmatic in our understanding of what blood tests reveal and say, well, this is high, it must mean this. I think there's always, like everything, there's more nuance the more you learn what the individual's avatar presents. So for me, that was kind of cool. The aging athlete spoke to my whiskers. Thought he was interesting, a likable guy. And if anybody should be intimidated by a crowd, I wouldn't think it would be him. Although the four of us in that crowd felt underwhelming. Like we were the least impressive amongst 400 others, in my opinion. Say what you will. But I didn't believe you, Jay, or you, Steve. I like the crooked hat that you have on your head there. I didn't believe what I said last year about it just being like these mountainous humans everywhere. But boy, it couldn't have been anything more true. The largest, strongest collection of people that I've ever mixed in, honestly. It was a cool place. And he was an interesting speaker.
If you've ever been in, like, I mean, our CrossFit competitions, everybody's like kind of together, like really good fellowship. Even that Drayson Hollins race we did, everybody's like super together, your little tribe. Like when you go there, it's a tribe as well. Everybody's there to have a good time. Everybody's there to have fun and learn. So it's a really, really neat atmosphere to be around, which keeps me wanting to go do more things like that.
Yeah, it was very cool. The next guy that came up, Judd Leinhart, I think is how you would say it. Is that correct?
Which was the most amazing last name, Lionheart.
Also, big guy, very much so a Lionheart. It was really cool how he opened, because this is the one that went to the speech coach, correct? Started things out, I thought I remembered correctly, and started out all hunched over the podium, speaking kind of softly and deeply, and started highlighting things that he first off said he wasn't a public speaker by nature. So he went to a speech coach, and as he's hunched over, he's saying that the speech coach was talking about having good posture. As he said, to speak clearly, he was mumbling. As he said, not to curse too much, he cussed. And then he like switches gear. It was a beautiful, like captivating way to like, don't pick his nose. It was obviously it was an orchestrated thing, but it was a great way to captivate an audience. And spoke well. He is one of the, I guess, co-owners of, was it called Acceleration? A gym was he in Charlotte? Do you guys remember?
I don't know.
Was it Charlotte?
I thought it was Texas. I don't remember.
Austin.
I think it was Texas.
Yeah. Austin. Sorry. Yeah, I was close though, right? Geographically, really close. But he was, a lot of his presentation was on how to properly recover athletes from injury. using resistance, and he got into the weeds on a whole lot of the physiological things. And but that's my big takeaways was some protocol that he gave on how to start reintroducing movement and resistance and how to bring athletes back. Was it a 5-week kind of protocol, if I remember correctly? So good takeaways there.
And I sent that to Robin. I sent that slide and I sent it to Robin. She goes, these are straight out of the PT rehabilitation handbook. She's like, yes, this absolutely makes sense what he's talking about. So I was like, good for him. He's done some research. I think he had a master's in exercise science and stuff like that. So incredibly smart guy and jacked.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Super jacked, but also jacked. And speaking about how humbling or how moving it was to work with kids, because the majority of his work, I believe, is done to improve the fitness and health and recover kids from injury, like high school kids and maybe even younger. He specifically said, you think it's like moving to increase the performance and ability of a collegiate athlete to perform on the field. Like you should work with a kid and give them the confidence that they need and the strength that they need to change as a person, kind of thing. I thought that was really, really cool.
Yes. Completely agree.
Fun to listen to. Challenge some thoughts as well. I know Galen, the free weight idea versus the machine idea, he kind of did some cool
Free weight
type stuff.
Free.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? Machines are freedom.
Machines will give you freedom. Free weights are like a prison to movement because they can only move in a certain plane, where machines you can change. It was interesting. He definitely inverted a common misconception, whether it's a misconception or not. I think it was a fun play with the idea, like to take the idea around and play it. It's cool. It perked my ears up a little bit. His tagline is always be an athlete. So he's encouraging of sprinting and moving at top speed once a week, I want to say, right? That's what he said.
Yeah. And balancing, which he claimed to be really important too. So I think some of the things he said translate into things we do, like the higher paced running and the jumping and things that also incorporate athleticism versus just brute strength, because he also is a big advocate for band use, which we do quite a bit of in here. He's claimed, and it sounds true to me, I'm sure it is true, that a muscle doesn't know what kind of resistance it is. It just knows its resistance, whether it's a bar with 225 pounds or a band stretched at maximal loading that you're braced up and holding, kind of thing. Cool to me. I like it. Yeah, I liked it. Probably yeah. I don't want to say the closest thing to like a more functional fitness approach, but maybe so. It sounds like there's probably a lot of jumping and a lot of agility and a lot of sprint work and a lot of band resistance versus just clanging and banging kind of thing.
And I took away you should sprint once a week. Like that doesn't have to be, I don't think, locked into running. It could be bike sprints, rowing sprints, or even 33 burpees for time like we've done in the past. Just something to move those muscles at max output, which is really interesting. What did he say? He's like, sprinters don't die or something like that. He's like, have you ever seen a fast lion get killed? He's like, no. He's like, it's the slow ones that die. It's like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I thought he did a great job of kind of flipping everything upside down. I don't fully agree with the free weight idea that he threw out, but I thought it was a cool way of looking at it as well. Just because you don't want to it's smart to think you don't want to be confined to one way of training. I like that. I wish we did have more, had the ability to have more capable machines and stuff like that as well. But we use bands quite a bit. And then he even uses chains, all kinds of different things that he uses. If you look at his Instagram, the guy has like 600,000 followers, first of all. But second of all, he does some really different type of things. He's actually reminded me more of the landmine guy, a lot of rotational stuff. And that dude was a beast. He was probably the most athletic guy that spoke the whole weekend.
I think he's the most physically impressive person there all weekend. And that's saying a lot because there were plenty of those folks. But he was just like a specimen. He could be on a stage, in a bodybuilding competition. Also, so he could put on pads and a helmet and be middle linebacker at a high division school.
Yep.
But also he's a former Army Ranger, so he knows how to survive and absolutely kill you. So interesting fella and a broad, diverse skill set, and really good speaker after he lulled us into thinking he'd be stupid in mouth. Yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah, and even more impressive is that he did all of that with the equivalent of the red gauge band that we use here. So there's hope for all of us. I'm kidding, obviously. The next guy was D'Antonio Burnett, North Carolina State strength and conditioning coach, North Carolina State. Polar opposite field from Florida State's strength and conditioning coach. Obviously a well-calculated, very collected didn't really get loud, didn't really bounce around too much. Brought some of his assistants in and some interns in, and kind of caught our eye because he would bring them up on stage and they would give a quick little spiel or a quick little bit of the speech as well. He would ask the questions, like general questions. They would answer them in unison. It sounded like a football team was there with you.
Eagles don't fly with pigeon. That made me so happy. But yeah, he was good. I actually commented on his post he put up on his Instagram. He replied back and followed me. So I'm pretty much famous now.
Yeah, he swore he would do that. He said, any question you ask, he'll 100% get back to you. He sounded like someone that really genuinely cared and wanted to help people in the industry or in the space get better at it. He's like, ask me anything. I'm an open book. So that's obviously a testament already that he's honoring his word there.
He had a lot on leadership, a lot on he kind of reminded me of Mark Eubanks. Mark, you would talk about people on the farm. Like if they can better themselves, get out, go better yourself. You don't have to stay here at this job or this profession for long. He's like, he wants his assistants to go on to bigger and better things, which is really nice to hear.
Yeah.
Really nice.
And in fickle world of collegiate sports with head coaches coming in and leaving and cleaning house, he is the most tenured amongst all of his peers. He's been there for 22 years, 26 since he played. I don't know that that's heard of elsewhere, anywhere. So if he spoke on leadership, and my goodness, we better all take note about what it means to be a leader, because if you survive the head coaching changes in that world, you have a firm backbone, and there's plenty, your character says more than you need to speak, audibly.
Yeah.
He was an impressive fellow. Really loved how his staff and he spoke the same language. He didn't even have to sit him up on a tee. He would just be mid-statement and pause. There wouldn't even be a hesitation. Everybody in unison, the same word, the same cadence, the same baritone in their voice. I thought it was impressive.
Yes.
I mean, that's cool that he followed UJ, so he's a man of his word. Big surprise.
Yeah. And I just followed him. And he started following me, and I was like, hey man, I was like, you real Jim. So I was like, enjoyed your talk. And he replied back, and he's like, man, he's like, is there anything I can do to help you? Please message me or email me. And he's like, I'll get right back to you, which is,
Wow.
I mean, he's got 60,000 followers.
That's
That's pretty impressive.
That's awesome. Cool. And the last one we saw, he brought it to a close.
Let's let Steve introduce
Yeah,
this
that's
guy.
exactly what I was going to say. Hold on. With excitement, I'm going to say his name was Ed Cohn. And for the next probably 3 to 5 minutes, we're going to turn it over to Steve and just let him expand on what we witnessed.
Well, if you are looking for a Michael Jordan in the powerlifting world, this would be him. This guy has broken every record there is, not just in one particular lift, but in the total, in 2 different weight classes. He might be 5'5" on a good day, not a big guy by any means, built perfectly for powerlifting, long arms, short legs, short body. But I think he deadlifted over 1,000 pounds at a 220 weight class. Back squatted over 900 pounds, bench close to 600 pounds, and he's been around for a very long time. And so he's the closest thing to a living legend that spoke over the weekend. And he's worked out with Bill Kazmaier. That's my dad's favorite strongman. So he's lifted amongst the best. And it was just a real treat to see that guy in real life. And that guy's probably been around all kinds of powerlifting, weightlifting royalty. So to have that guy close out, just to put it this way, he had no presentation. He just did a Q&A the whole time, and it filled up the entire time because he's the best. So that's how I'd break it.
Very impressive.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Look up some of his old videos. There's actually an old video of him tearing his knee, his last meet. Very bad. But old videos of him, like I don't know how to explain it. Like he looks like Mighty Mouse almost. He's just a short staff. Stature, and his hands. The Sornex posted a thing where, like he'd basically shake my hand and would touch my elbow. Literally like that. Like that's how big his hand would be on mine.
Like mine would be an average hand. His was his hand. It was insane. People were like walking up and doing that, and he'd do it. They just tower over their hand. It was really cool.
But he got chalk and put it on a T-shirt and signed it for Sornex. So cool. I think that he left it with them. That I think either he posted or Sornex posted that over the weekend. So and it's incredibly soft-spoken, loved his family. They're like, what's the hardest thing in your life? He's like, losing parents. Like, it was just like, there was no question, like family was always there. And he's just like, I loved working out and I didn't care about competitions. I knew I was good. He's like, but I love working out more than anything. Coming from a kid with no self-esteem to that, which is really neat.
Yeah, but to wrap it all up, the coolest thing I thought about him was the fact that he kept it super simple. He went off a feel. For you guys that max out every day or try to build to some 5 or 6 rep max, this guy's the best guy to ever do it, that's ever lived, that's powerlifted. And if you could take away anything, I think, from what he did or what he said, was the fact that you leave a little bit in the tank and then there's a time that you peak. So whenever we tell you guys to maybe stick to a certain percentage or a certain weight, it's because we've seen guys who actually know what they're doing, and that's what they've told us. So we're just reiterating that to.
Yeah, we're just the medium through which we share the information. He's probably world-class auto-regulation, meaning training based on feel, but he is also trained to complement the way particular lifts felt. So if he didn't feel strong on a bench press, he knew a specific few sets of accessory type work to hedge against poor performance that he never really ever had. So obviously he knew himself really well. He started in Chicago, south side of Chicago, in a gym with Bernie Mac, apparently, and they all used to just rip on him every single day. All those OG comics would come in and rip on him. So he had a really sharp fighting sense of humor. Like Steve said, super confident, very soft-spoken. If you just saw him in a crowd, you would think, well, it's an interesting looking fella, because his hands were unusually
Hanging below his
and his arms were really long too. That was what I noticed. So he could kind of scratch his shins while standing up.
Yeah, and I liked his approach, or at least what I took of his approach to kind of ego. His ego wasn't in his way in the sense that he had to hit those crazy heavy loads, but it was that he was 100% going to be in the gym every day and then finding ways to fix the lift issues that he had through accessory movement. So he's going to be there. He's training smart, but he couldn't let himself not go to the gym. Another one of those testaments is just doing, like showing up, doing work, as Florida State would say,
Yeah. It's really good. And also honorable mention was the guy that came in that said Richard Soren and Bert Soren changed his life.
Yeah.
Steve, what's the weightlifter? The girl? Say it one more time.
Cheryl Hayworth, probably the best Olympian that America's ever produced.
Yeah, so Cheryl Hayworth went to the Olympics in 2000. I think it was 2000. Got, I think, bronze. And this guy was her coach. And this coach walked in with her jacket from the Olympic trials and gifted it to them for basically changing his life as a kid. He was talking about being a little kid who had nothing and then wanted to basically kill himself because he had so much anxiety. Being kicked out of so many schools, he would just like shut down, rip water fountains off the wall. And then Bert and Richard gave them a choice. I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
I got to wrap up.
Yeah.
Like,
We're filling up here too, guys. Well, hopefully you enjoyed us sharing some of that. Keep your calendars marked for our events coming up, the workshop, the lifting event and anniversary for Bristol. Let those summer students know that it is time for them to come home. And we'll leave it with that. Thank you guys for listening. If you made it this far, you guys are awesome. We'll see you soon.